I called Mama. She was so happy she cried. She wants you to have her wedding gown. It's white lace.
Yeah, that's good. I can't get married in your mother's dress.
You are wonderful.
Thank you. I've worked hard to become so. I admit it, you are better than I am. Then why are you smiling?
Because I know something you don't know.
What is that?
I am not offended.
Well, sir, you were a cowardly son of a bitch. You just shot an unarmed man.
Well, he should have harmed himself. He's gonna decorate his saloon with my friend.
There are two openings that my predecessor, my former co-host, Tom Cook. Hi, I'm Mark. This is the Cinemaniacs. We are the Cinemaniacs. You and I, it's plural because there used to be two of us. There's now one of us, but hopefully there's more than one of us in this televisual relationship, if you know what I'm saying, and I think you do. So Tom used to create the openings with various clips from movies, and the two that I do so love most, you will see me grinning like a little idiot here when it's Phantasm or Superfuzz, because those are two movies that I very much still love from my youth. Anyway, speaking of movies, we will, or I will, very soon. We have 8 to talk about today. Not 18, not 20. I didn't see everything that's out, and this is sort of what was convenient, what I kind of felt like seeing. But we will move deftly over, very deftly, so, like so many kung fu moves or bullets or knives flying through the air regarding this film. So we have the third film in a series. Let's say the third film in a series starring Keanu Reeves as the world's favorite hitman assassin who is on the run. This is what I like to call, with the Jackie Chan movies, I always said the best words you could hear in a Jackie Chan movie were, there he is, get him. This is a there he is, get him movie. So John Wick has been through hell and back. The original film, I'll give you a little recap. The original film, he's a former assassin, he's settled down. Bad guys break into his house, they steal his car, they kill his dog, which was the last gift of his deceased wife, and he loses it and he goes after these guys, making the Russian mob angry in the process, and that sets into effect a chain reaction of violencia, and just a tremendous amount of killing. So now we have the third chapter in this series where John Wick is on the run from every assassin and he is offered no protection from anyone anywhere in the world. This is John Wick Chapter 3, Parabellum. Those of you watching this on YouTube, hi, will not have just seen that trailer. But if you go online and look up John Wick Chapter 3 trailer, you'll see that they used the Impossible Dream, either by Sinatra or somebody who sounds like Sinatra in that trailer. And for me, the impossible dream for a decade or more has been action movies where you can see what the hell's going on. And one of the reasons I love the John Wick films is that you can see what's going on. These are action scenes there's a lot going on, they're very fast, they're almost frustratingly fast at times with the hand-to-hand and the gunplay and all that, but they play it out wide, and they don't play it out stupid, shaky, and overcut and all that other stuff like they normally do in action movies that make them unwatchable. They're wide, they're predominantly practical effects, or they at least look like practical effects and stunts and gunplay and all that. And they really kill people. So I've actually 2,000 people have lost their lives over the course of this series. No, they don't. So I love these movies so much. The first one, it was a great surprise. I heard it was good, and I picked up a used copy at video headquarters and loved it. Saw the second one in the theater, loved it. Went to the Alamo Drafthouse Yonkers on Thursday night last week, and they played all 3 films back to back. They played 1, 2, and 3 with a short intermission between each. And it's really a tremendous lot of killing over the course of a night. So you kind of do get action fatigue after a while because there is so much action in these films. It's almost nonstop, and especially here in Chapter 3, it's more action than not. It advances the story per se a little bit, where you meet Wick and basically he's been excommunicado from this society of assassins, and there's a huge price on his head. So basically everybody in the world who can try to is trying to kill this guy, and he doesn't know who's coming after him with what. He finds allegiance with Halle Berry as an old friend and her dogs, and he finds allegiance with Lawrence Fishburne, which is a kind of a fun Matrix connection from the past, and a few other people. But overall, this guy's on his own, and he's trying to stay alive and get from point A to point B and accomplish something. The action is phenomenal. It is gorgeously shot, very artistically and gorgeously shot. Artistically in that it looks good, artistically not in that it's hard to look at. And everybody in it is a blast. The new characters we meet are a hell of a lot of fun. The old characters are nice to see again. I won't say I was surprised at the ending of this film. I won't say anything more than that. I really hope this film does well, and I will say that. But it's just great. Great. I love it. I'm going to see it again. I was a little sleepy when I saw this at the theater because this was like entering, hour 6 of Keanu Reeves killing people on a weeknight where I'd worked all day, or part of the day. And I was getting a little tired here and there, but I loved it, and I can't wait to see it again. I can't recommend John Wick Chapter 3 highly enough, certainly more so than the next 2 movies we're about to talk about. So up next is a new not a romantic comedy, a youthful romantic drama about 2 people who meet by accident in the greatest city in the world, they'll tell you, New York City, and they only have a very limited time together, and they try to make the most of that while also realizing the sun is also a star. If nothing else, this film reminds me how much I really do love Crimson and Clover, the song, whether it's Tommy James or whether it's Joan Jett. So here we have the tale of a young woman whose parents are from Jamaica, and they are going to be deported tomorrow because of, the way things are and laws and all kinds of stuff. And then she's striving to do whatever. She's very smart, very lovely. She's trying to do whatever she can to prevent this from happening. And she bumps in almost literally kind of to this young guy who's a son of Korean immigrants who is making his way in the world. And he bets her that she doesn't believe in love. And this is such a setup for a movie, isn't it? She doesn't believe in love because it's not scientific, can't be scientifically proven. And he's a poet and has rippling abs and is a beautiful high voice singer and a male model looks. So they're totally average New Yorkers. And he's trying to convince her over the course of an hour or a day that it can happen. And do you think they fall in love or not? Write movies@CheshireTV.org with your answer. And my answer is, unless you're a damn fool, your answer is correct. So anyway, I knew that going in, and I'm just like, well, it's this or the Dead Dog movie. And honestly, I don't want to sit there and cry for an hour and a half at a Dead Dog movie. I'll cry for 15 minutes or less over a star-crossed lovers movie. So I saw this. It's sort of shot like a contact lens commercial, which is a little grating on me. All soft focus and wavy camera and all that. The leads are certainly likable. They're very nice, if not just, perfect magazine model people. And their problems are, in the scheme of things, realistic, but you kind of know where it's going to go. So it was pleasant enough. It was well made. I can't say I would necessarily recommend this. If you like romantic movies, it's probably a fine date movie. Probably a movie that's a little bit more for the ladies than the dudes, I'm guessing. As some friends and I were talking online, this movie wasn't really made for us. So I can only give you my impression of it. And what I try to do in this show is to say, who's this movie for? Well, this is certainly for teens. This is certainly for 20-somethings. This is for anybody who's a pure romantic at heart, who likes to look at pretty people on the screen, and frankly, who doesn't. And it is what it is. The Sun is also a star in theaters now. This is one where I'm going to say, probably, if you want to see it, it probably isn't going to hang around for too long. If you're like where we have in town here, we have like 6 screens. So middle of the road films tend to stick around for a few weeks, but as soon as a new major motion picture comes out, they get pushed out. So when what's coming out, when Brightburn and Aladdin come out, when Aladdin comes out, I don't think Sun is also a star is going to be too easy to find. So the third film I saw in the theater, this one I just saw yesterday. This was not my plan to see this. It wasn't my plan to talk about this. I knew I was going to see it. This is the latest film from Terry Gilliam. Here's a little backstory. So there's a documentary that I highly recommend. Honestly, I kind of recommend it more than this movie. A film called Lost in La Mancha. And it is a documentary that was supposed to be about the making of this Don Quixote film that Terry Gilliam was making in Spain. But it became about the unmaking of this Don Quixote film that Terry Gilliam was trying to make in Spain. Everything went wrong. Natural disaster, bad location, actors getting sick, just everything that could go wrong. And it is a fascinating and darkly hilarious story about a film that just fell apart and never got made. Now 25 years later, he was able to make this film with different actors and probably a slightly scaled back version of what he was going to do. And it's in theaters now. It's also, I believe, rentable on like YouTube or Amazon currently. It's like a $5 on-demand thing. The theatrical release is very spotty and limited. I saw it again at the Alamo Drafthouse Yonkers, where they have it as a very limited run. I think anything is better in the theater, but I think most people are probably not going to have a choice. It does also hit video, and I'm contemplating whether I'm going to talk about it again. It hits video in like 2 weeks. So anyway, Adam Driver stars as a enfant terrible movie director in Spain shooting a Don Quixote-themed windmill commercial for Air Power, and bumps up against his past and a student film he made and people who think they may or may not be legendary characters, and the film is entitled The Man Who Killed Don Quixote. Okay, for those of you, again, who watched that on broadcast, thank you. Keep cable alive! Keep me employed. Keep us both employed. That was a French trailer because this is such a limited theatrical release. I don't know that there is a U.S. English language trailer for it. If you're watching this on YouTube, there's a trailer on YouTube. So we finally have the movie that Terry Gilliam tried to make years ago. If you don't know Terry Gilliam, he was originally a member of Monty Python's Flying Circus, and then he went on to direct movies like Time Bandits and Fisher King and Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas and just a million movies. He's done a lot. Brazil, Adventures of Baron Munchausen. They tend to have a very grand scale and a very distinct look about them. This movie didn't have that, and I'm going to say that that's probably because of the limited resources. I think as he's getting older and his films are not generally commercially successful, he's having less luck with funding. It's a lot of European sources and maybe more limited. So usually you would see a movie like this and there'd be, if you think about the other stuff he's done, where in the beginning of The Meaning of Life, the Python film, he has this short film he made where it's giant office buildings turn into, they sprout sails and they become pirate ships, and crazy grand ideas like that. This film is far more contained. There's a lot of times in the film where I'm watching it and I'm feeling like, boy, this feels like it should be a lot grander, but it's pretty limited. It's almost like he was shooting for TV or something with how limited the resources were. It doesn't make the movie bad. It's just, if you don't know his work, I don't think that would ever really occur to you. So again, Adam Driver is this not a very nice guy, film director who's doing commercials in Spain, and he bumps into people who were involved in a film. The commercial he's making is sort of Don Quixote jousting at windmills, and it's tying in with not hydropower, air power, wind turbine. Thank you, wind power. That thing that blows. Yeah, not for vengeance, but that thing that blows is called wind. And he sees people who starred in a film that he had made as a student film about Don Quixote, and it's this very interesting and odd and very funny. It's sort of he's thinking back in time. It reminds me of other movies. I want to say 8.5, but it's been so long since I've seen 8.5. There's probably a more recent, better example of this. Keoma, great example of that. He's seeing the past and he's in the present, and we're going back and forth in time with what we're seeing, and we're seeing clips from his film. And he comes across Jonathan Pryce, who was this shoemaker that he cast as Don Quixote in his student film, that in the ensuing decade now believes he is Don Quixote, and he's taking him off on an adventure, and he believes that this director is Sancho, his sidekick. And there's a lot of funny stuff with that, but there's also times where this director isn't sure if he really is with Don Quixote. It's complex and very interesting. It's not, I can see why it's getting the limited release that it has. I don't think it's a very commercial film. Part of it is that I don't think general audiences care about movies or movies about filmmakers so much. They never, in my mind, they're never really financially successful. And it's such an odd, you have to pay attention to it, you have to focus on it film, that I can't see this being like a huge studio hit. I could see it being successful in art houses, but it looks like the release this is getting is really just individual dates here and there, not much of a release. It's sort of a cursory release to maybe help promote the video and the on-demand. So this is actually one of those films I'm talking about theatrically. Right now, you could walk away from me. Don't. You could walk away from me and dial this up on demand or on YouTube or Amazon and watch it right now. So no lines, no waiting on The Man Who Killed Don Quixote. So that's all that I saw. That is actually all I saw in the theater this weekend. I now move on to that which you can see on the home video platform, format, device, service of your choice. First up is a film, has the word up in it. This is a film, it's a remake of a French film that came out, and it either won or was nominated for Academy Awards for foreign language film a few years ago. It is about a man who is paralyzed from the neck down, who hires a down-on-his-luck, rough-and-tumble guy as his manservant, helper, aide, whatever you want to call it. Kevin Hart and Bryan Cranston are in The Upside. This is one that I was not worried. I saw the trailers and I'm like, oh boy, this is another film where it's like, people from the wrong side of the tracks, not the wrong side, people from different sides of the tracks butt heads, but in the end, they learn that they have more in common than they have different, and they learn to love. which is kind of what this is, but it was really good. I've never seen the original French film. I'm sure this is probably a relatively close following of that. Basically, Kevin Hart is a guy who's trying to get, I don't know if he's trying to get his kids back, or he's estranged from his kids, or he's had maybe problems with the law or financial problems, and he's trying to get a job, and he kind of falls backwards into this gig as Bryan Cranston's helper because he needs somebody to feed him, clothe him, just sort of a general companion to get him through his day. Cranston is a rich businessman, artist, something like that. It's been a while since I've seen this. And Cranston is very, bitter about his situation and about the life that he had to leave behind and the woman he left behind and all that. And Kevin Hart's much more streetwise and loose, and this is like every buddy movie. This is like every buddy cop movie, every road trip movie. Kevin Hart's the loose one, the streetwise one that tries to help, Bryan Cranston regain a spark of life and have fun despite his situation and all that. And it's based on a true story to some degree. It is a very uplifting, fun, funny movie. The drama is real when that happens too. Kevin Hart's very good in it. And Kevin Hart's a guy, I don't love his movies for the most part. The movies he's been in, I just don't find him that funny. I did see a Comedians in Cars Getting Coffee he did with Jerry Seinfeld. And while I've never liked the comedy I've seen from Kevin Hart or a lot of his movies, he seems like a really decent guy, so I'm always willing to give him a shot in anything he does, and this was really good. So this is the upside. This is a movie for folks that want a comedy drama that isn't totally dead serious and isn't totally just dumb. It's pretty intelligent and heartwarming. I do take issue with most movies that do this. The beginning of the movie is also kind of the end of the movie, and I always feel like, just tell me in order. The whole give me something exciting up front and then make me wait an hour and a half to get to the end of that. I'm not a big fan of that screenwriting trait, but anyway. So speaking of movies that are just fun and thrilling and just put a smile on your face and a giggle in your belly the whole time, Mads Mikkelsen, sorry if I mispronounced that, is a man just stranded. He is far away from help, out in the tundra somewhere. His plane has crashed. He's barely surviving. He's trying to find a way to survive and maybe get rescued from in the Arctic. So an excellent, to me, man versus nature movie, very much like All Is Lost. If you took All Is Lost and you took him off a boat and threw him in the snow, he's just terminally hosed. And what I love about this movie, too, is it hits the ground running. We don't get a backstory on this guy. I was ready for the flashback to his family at home and how he got in this situation. Nope. We start with this guy who's living in the crashed hull of a small airplane. He's got his rhythm. He's got his patterns. He's got his methods of, marking off the days, trying to ration food and water, trying to fish and all that. And it's the story of how this guy survives, tries to call for help. He looks just totally in the middle of nowhere. And then I don't want to give anything away, though the trailer does. If you're watching this on YouTube, you don't know what the big thing that the trailer gave away is. But something changes and complicates his situation that sort of ramps up the amount of time he has, or reduces the amount of time he has to try to get rescued. And it is fascinating, it's thrilling, it's tense. It's a subtitled film, but it doesn't matter because there's hardly any dialogue in this film. It's mostly just this guy alone. That's another thing too. It's not all of this talking to himself stuff. And as much as Castaway was a really good movie, this guy doesn't have a tennis ball that he's talking to the whole time or something like that. It's just this person going about his business. It feels very, very realistic. It was fascinating and thrilling the whole time. So I really highly recommend Arctic. I would say if this was the wintertime, I'd say throw the window open a little bit and have a little 4D. So in this case, now that we're moving into the warmer months, just crank your AC or watch this next to the fridge with the door open and get a little bit of that 4D action there. Speaking of films that were in some level of dimension, this is one of them. This is the, I believe, third film in this series about a young man in this fantasy land who meets and is able to tame a dragon for his very own, his pet, his pal, his warrior buddy. This is the third film in that series. Time has progressed, and this is How to Train Your Dragon: The Hidden World.
Witnessing the creation of an incredible new world, a world of unbelievable excitement and fun, the world of the Dingalings.
Hi, just referring to my notes here. So the third film in the How to Train Your, I always want to say How to Drain Your Dragon, and that's rude. How to Train Your Dragon series. The first one I didn't see in the theater. I wound up seeing the second one, saw them out of order, really liked the second one. I'm surprised how much I liked that. Went back and watched the first, really liked that. So we have the third. So basically where this film takes place is everybody who has fled the land of, you know, people hunting dragons lives on this island or this remote location now where they all live in harmony, and they're the dragons and they're people and all the characters you've seen from the previous films. And the threat comes along, the bad guy comes along, this dragon hunter who finds this place and wants to just eradicate all of them. And amongst all of this turmoil, the Toothless, the dragon who's our hero's best friend, meets a girl dragon, and there's a love story there, and there's, you know, life moving on in the circle of life and all that sort of thing. I didn't like this one as much as the other two. I thought it was okay, but it didn't really, for me, have the spark that the first two films had. Looks great. It's entertaining. To me, the greatest moment of this is the end of the movie, which I'm not going to give away, but it was a very... it was a moving and mature end for this film that I thought was really good. So I think if you like the other ones, this is a fine, you know, maybe final chapter in this series. I don't know. I just don't think it was as strong as the first two. Certainly fine for kids. Yeah, I'm a big fan of what they say under the ratings or next to the ratings on the trailers and on the posters and everything. There, I believe there's peril. There may be mild to you know, severe peril in this film. So a little kid who might get scared at loud noises or danger might not dig it, but otherwise, it's there. As a theoretical grown-up type person, I thought it was fine. Again, not as good as the others, but it held my interest, and I didn't think... There are animated films that I will watch, and I'll be just like, oh God, this is awful. It's all just butt jokes, and this movie isn't that. These movies take a higher road that I respect them for. So now I turn the page, and we get over to... These are the films. Okay, to clue you in, theatrical stuff aside, the movies that I like the most, that I really want to talk about, are going to be like the last couple movies on the show. So, first up, here's a film, full disclosure, I know the people who made this movie, but I still paid for it. And this is a film, it is sort of like a neo-exploitation, grindhousey kind of thriller, drama, revenge movie. It is a tale of a woman, average lady, average woman, works in a hotel, not terribly thrilled with that. She's in housekeeping, and something really bad happens to her, and she decides to get revenge on the person for whom, the person who did it, in a film entitled, and instructing herself to, Get My Gun. So there you have it. Fun for the whole Manson family. This is, okay, so like I said, I know the people who made this film, and I will be honest to this very high degree. If I didn't like it, I would have just not talked about it. So there you go. There's a little preamble for what I'm going to say here. So basically, this is an indie. Maybe you put it near the horror shelf, but it's more exploitation, thriller, revenge movie. And as I started to say, this young woman works in a hotel. She basically gets assaulted in the hotel. And it's a mix of revenge movie for that, but also the result of being assaulted in the hotel is a pregnancy that she decides to give up as a surrogate. And as she is dealing with the person who is the surrogate or who will be the recipient of this baby, things get a little weird. So basically the performances in this are really good. It's a cast that you've probably not seen or heard from before, but there's nothing wrong with that. To me, that always is, it lets me into a movie better. Lets me into a movie more deeply if I'm not bringing any baggage with the previous roles of people. To me, the person who's this character is this character, and why should I think any different? So it's well shot, cut, edited, which is the same thing, scored. It's a really well-made little indie film. If you like, the easiest thing to say is that it's like I Spit on Your Grave. It's not as gruesome as I Spit on Your Grave, but it is gruesome. I've seen a lot. It was shockingly gruesome to me at times. I was watching it and I'm like, well, that's really shocking. They're not going to, they are going to show that. So the effects are good. The effects are shocking, so that's something to be prepared for. But it's just a good rough and tumble indie badass kick-ass movie, and it is out now. This is a film that you can get through, let's see, if you want to buy a DVD, which is what I did, you go to tragicbus.com and it's there. It's on Amazon Prime, it's on Vimeo, it's all over the place. If you just search for Get My Gun, you will find it. And this movie's a lot of fun. It's intelligent too. It's not a dumb grindhouse violent movie. It is an intelligent grindhouse violent movie. It is not dumb eviscerations. It's eviscerations with heart and a mind to them. So congrats to Brian Darwis and Jen Carcietta, because this is a good flick and I liked it. So not that that means anything to you, but it should, shouldn't it, frankly? Oh, so, okay, now, now we come to what I always say is see, it's right there, if I knew my screen direction. My favorite part of this show, oh, right in the fire knee. This is the Arrow Video Corner. Now, I was away for a little bit, so I'm getting caught up on these Arrow videos. So I'm still a little bit behind. So hopefully when I come back next time, there's going to be a whole lot of titles in the Arrow Video Corner. But for today, it's just the one. But oh, what a one it is. This is a movie. This is a spaghetti western. And if you've watched this show for any amount of time, you know two things. One is that Arrow puts out a lot of spaghetti westerns, and the other is that I really like spaghetti westerns. So here we have one starring Lee Van Cleef, who, for most people in my mentality, if you say Lee Van Cleef, you know what he looks like, you know how he's dressed, and you know what kind of movie he's in. He's going to have that wide black brimmed hat, really finely tailored black duster or jacket, and he's going to be smoking a little cigarillo, and it's going to be a spaghetti western. So here we have Lee Van Cleef as a former lawman who's sort of a bounty hunter who's coming to collect this guy who's about to be hung. They said you was hung. They was right. They are going to go off and try to get revenge on the people who wronged this younger guy under Lee Van Cleef's wing, and ultimately it will result in if not the Grand Duel. Again, if you're watching this on YouTube, you just didn't see that trailer. I love the spaghetti western trailers. They all had a similar style. And you can say that of spaghetti westerns, or you can say that, I always say that about like the Ramones or AC/DC. Some people are like, yeah, every song sounds the same. I'm like, yeah, but if you like the way that song sounds, you get like 10 albums of that. So that's the same for spaghetti westerns. There's a similarity between all of them. It's a genre, and the trailers all have a similar style, but my God, it's a style that I really love. It's very stylish. So here we have Lee Van Cleef, who is badass Lee Van Cleef, who is Lee Van Cleef, who could have fallen ass backwards out of any other movie he was in this era and genre. But that's what you like, right? You go to see a John Wayne movie not for the character he's playing, it's because John Wayne shows up. So this is the same thing. Lee Van Cleef is cool, cold, badass. He's in control of any situation he walks into, you know that. And then he has this other guy who, pardon my lack of research, I think it's Alberto Dentis? Dentice probably is how it should be said. Alberto's there. He's a younger, hippie-looking guy, and he's good with a pistola. He's somewhat acrobatic, and that's something I like about this movie a lot. I'd seen this before, but this was a nice refresher to watch it again. It looks great, by the way. It's Arrow, so the transfer is beautiful, and that's something, too, if I may digress or depress or whatever. One of the cool things about Blu-ray isn't just because it's higher resolution. It's because they do restorations on the film. The film, they're going back to the negative, or they're going closer to the negative than you've seen before. So yes, the image is sharper, but also the movies sometimes don't look old. And what I mean by that is, yes, if it's set in 1972, the hair and clothes are going to be different, but skin tones, it looks like it could have been shot yesterday. And that's what really hit me hard when I was watching The Grand Duel, or The Big Showdown, or whatever that other alternate title was on that. Watching The Grand Duel was that it looked like it could have been shot yesterday, and it gave me the impression while I was watching it, damn, you know, Lee Van Cleef might still be alive. He's not. But watching this movie, when you see it look like that, it looks like a new release. It looks like he's more alive in this film. And in my weird brain, it's just like, wow, this feels like I'm watching this when it's brand new and contemporarily to its release. So Lee Van Cleef is Lee Van Cleef. This other guy is a young hotshot who was wronged by a group of people, this family, this land baron or oil baron. I don't really remember the detail on that. And basically, Lee Van Cleef, instead of helping this guy go to the gallows where he's supposed to go, he helps him get back to the place where he was wronged and take these bad guys out. So it's a lot of action. It's a lot of fun pistoleria. It's a lot of fun gunplay and action and combat and all that. Very interestingly choreographed and executed. Some acrobatic stuff, some really wacky, kind of funny stuff, whether it's intentional or not. Because it's a spaghetti western, it has that cool score. It has an undertone of sorrow to it, which a lot of them did. Some of it might be the wailing female voices on the score, and some of it is just, somebody is dealing with loss and revenge and sadness and all that. And then, Lee Van Cleef, of course, is sort of a man of mystery. The Fistful of Dollars came out, and a genre was born. Movies were just echoing that film for the next decade or so, and this is no exception. So I really, really had a good time with this. So it's Arrow. I don't have the list of extras with me, and sadly I didn't get a chance to dig into the extras because of my just jet set lifestyle that I lead. But it's Arrow, so there's a commentary that kicks ass. There are several featurettes about the filmmakers and the film and all that give you a great amount of context for where this movie came from, what led up to it, and what followed it. And that stuff is fascinating. I know that's on there. I didn't get a chance to watch it, but these discs don't go on my library shelf until I've watched all that stuff, and I will watch every second of it because, for me, Arrow is, they put out amazing films that I like, either movies that I already know or movies that I see, and I'm like, man, this is my kind of movie. And then they educate me, and I like to learn stuff. So you walk away smarter after you've watched one of these. They're not the only people who do it, but they do it so well. And rarely do you get an Arrow release that isn't, a multiple of the running time of the film is the duration of the extras. So that's all out there. That's out now. That's actually been out a week or so, the Grand Duel from Arrow. Next week I will be talking about, well, actually I won't be here next week because it's Memorial Day. Memorial Day, they tell me. And we are closed. This studio is closed on Monday, which is the day we tape. So in 2 weeks, I'll be back with probably 3 or 4 Arrow titles to talk about because I'll have time to get caught up, as well as other new releases. Brightburn, this movie Brightburn that's coming out, it looks basically like, say you take the Superman legend, and he's not a good guy. He's a bad guy. So it's a kid who comes down from space and adopted by, I mean, it really looks like they skirted as legally as they could to retell the Superman story as a villain, not a hero. Brightburn is coming out. Aladdin, which is Disney's latest live-action remake of a popular animated classic. Godzilla, King of the Monsters, not the Raymond Burr film. I really wish they wouldn't retitle movies with titles of movies that have already existed, because you could call it other things. But this is the most recent American Godzilla film. To me, the American Godzilla film's not such a good track record, so we'll see how we go here. This is the sequel to the Godzilla film that was out a few years ago. I assumed they were going to call Destroy All Monsters because it's pretty much what it is. You've got Mothra, Ghidorah, Godzilla, probably others. It's the big battle royale of all the different monsters. I personally hope that you can actually see the monsters in this film, because in the previous Godzilla film, you couldn't see anything except, it was Godzilla from a distance through a cracked, dirty windshield, or it was Godzilla on CNN on a TV across the room, and it was just like, kind of see a Godzilla movie to see Godzilla. Anyway, I hope that works out better. And Rocket Man, which actually to me looks really good. I don't know if this was inspired by Bohemian Rhapsody, if these were in production at the same time or what, but this is a very flamboyant, in the best sense of the word, I think also a musical telling of the life of Elton John using his music with the star of the Kingsman films, which I thought was a really odd choice until I saw the trailer, and I was like, he actually kind of works. So I'm actually quite looking forward to Rocket Man. The music's going to be good, if nothing else, and it looks pretty visually dazzling. On video, we will talk about Climax, which is a movie I saw in the theater and didn't like, and Greta, which was another film I saw in the theater, and as I've said, The Big Clock, which is an old noir film that Arrow is putting out, and probably more than I had time to really research and find out about. One last thing, we can't promote anything on here, so I'm going to merely present as informational to you that the Mahoning Drive-In Theater, where I spend my weekends in Laheyton, Pennsylvania, is doing with Exhumed Films. It's actually Exhumed Films is doing this event, and the drive-in is just saying, come here and do it. It's Zombie Fest 5. This is the thing they've been doing this is the 5th year now, and it is 3 days. It's Memorial Day weekend. It's 3 days of zombie film triple features. Now, I don't remember all of the titles that are being shown, so I'm not going to try to do that. But amongst the films are Phantasm, which I totally love. I believe, see, this is where I might go wrong. I think City of the Living Dead, but I might be wrong. And then they're recreating the old Orgy of the Dead triple feature, which was this, I want to say Jerry Gross, but I might be wrong. It was a repackaged, retitled trio of films that played drive-ins back in the 70s. Harry and the gang at Exhumed are recreating that on Sunday night, where you're getting, I can't remember the retitling, but the actual films are a film called Murder Clinic, which is a German crimi film. There is Fangs of the Living Dead, which is also known as Malenka, which is Shout Factory has that out on Blu-ray. Very good, I think, 60s Euro vampire film that has a nice atmosphere to it. And then Kill Baby Kill, which is a Mario Bava film, which is really good and kind of hard to see on the big screen. So I would say head on over to the Mahoning Drive-In Theater Facebook page or website, and all that information with titles is on there. It's a heck of a good time. We have people from all over the country come to that, and it's basically a 3-day convention and party of horror fans, and they're all very fine people, I must say. So that's all I'm going to talk about right now. I blazed through those faster than I thought I would, so I will leave you with this. do what you will with that. And I will say, I hope you enjoy yourself over the course of the next week or so. I'll be back the week after Labor Day. No, the week after Memorial Day weekend. I don't know. It's a day off is a day off. It's more movies for me. I will see you at the movies and have a great time. I'm Mark. Bye.